Yeah, that's a lowercase n.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, Brian.
Hi.
Brian and Dila have the best lines. And River too. Well, I'm so happy to see all of you. All the effort that Julie and Clay and I put together has come into fruition. So I'm very, very happy to see all your faces, and I can't wait to hear what experience you had the last week and the last 3 months. And I told you before, you can steer the conversation whatever you want to. We of course we're here to talk about film, but I think right now it would be short-sighted and tone deaf not to talk about other things that are much more important in our minds. So, are we live already? Oh my God, we are. So, thank you everyone who's online already. My name is Dante Lencastre, and I'm a documentary filmmaker. I'm LA based, and right now I'm here on behalf of the California LGBT Arts Alliance. I'm their current uh, executive director, and the California LGBT Arts Alliance is art nonprofit that nurtures and promotes and produces art and artists who are LGBTQIA plus in Southern California, and it's art and artists who are promoting social justice, cultural equity, accessibility, and also the preservation of our history. Last year, I was approached by the LA's Department of Cultural Affairs uh, to provide programming for their Big Read initiative. So the Big Read initiative has been an initiative that's been going on for 13, 12 years, where a book is chosen to encourage youth and high school students to enjoy reading again. And I was, when I was told that we were going to be part of this initiative of creating queer programming around the book, I immediately thought of the films that you're viewing today and tomorrow at Seed&Spark. I've known some other filmmakers, but the main thing I think that is really the common thread of all the films is the vulnerable and truthful way where you how you tell your stories. They're impactful, they're beautiful, they're funny, they're everything that I think a film from our community should be. And I was just thrilled to be able to salvage this program. Was going to be live and to make it online. It's their first Alliance event online, so we all have to bear with any kind of glitches or something that might happen. And I want to right now to give the space to my co-moderator. He's a cultural warrior. He's been a friend in the trenches, an entertainer. He's a master of all mediums, stage, screen, and TV. And last year alone, I saw him at the premiere of Transfinite. And then I was at the opening night of his long running one-person show, Tutti or Not Tutti, at the LGBT Center. And so take it away, D-Love. Make me proud.
Thank you, Dante. Thank you so much for having me here. I feel very blessed to be on this event with all of these people that I truly admire and love. And I see you all, and you're doing everything, not just in the arts, but I've been following your accounts during this time, especially, and how you've been vocal about what you believe in and what your place is in this moment, in this time, as queer, trans, non-binary folks of color. And I wanted to make sure that we did what we feel could honor this moment, because I know that there was some reservations around actually taking this time out and whether we should push back, being that we are in the middle of a whole lot right now. But I just wonder if we could just, for a moment, just send our love and our good feelings of support for everybody who's right now in the streets doing things for our community, for Black and trans lives, for trans lives, for everybody who doesn't, who don't have the same protections as others. So if you just take like maybe 15, 20 seconds to just from your heart, just send that out. And this is for everybody who's out there watching live as well. Just to ground us real quick. Thank you. Our art is not made in a vacuum. And I appreciate that all of your work speaks to the realities of trans folks, of intersex folks, of parents, of Black and Latinx, of so many lived realities. I wanted to just go one by one and ask y'all kind of the basic question is the why and the how. But I think that generally we do know that trans and queer filmmaking is very difficult. Access to the same sort of lanes are not provided in the same way. And so, but I also want to celebrate the fact that these films were made. So I wanted to talk about the celebration of some of the joy that I saw and I want to just sort of focus on this one, just fresh out the gate. What was it like? I guess that all the films kind of talk about some sort of rites of passage for us as queer, trans, non-binary, intersex folks. What for you? I know, Brian Michael, you were a part of the film as the star of the film. I didn't know if you had any other sort of producing credit in this as well, but I wanted to hear about your journey in taking on this role, what that role meant to you, and Jade Phoenix for you as well, because both of your pieces speak specifically to the parenting, even though I know that that is also there with Cases and Rivers in some aspects as well. But I wanted to talk to you both specifically about your thoughts, your feelings about the films that you were in. Let's go with Brian Michael first, and then we'll get on to Jade Phoenix.
Yeah, I was at a point in my artistic journey where I felt like I had put enough energy and attention and sort of the self-reflection that you kind of have to do as an actor, because you're the instrument and you're kind of painting from the colors of your experience. And my first focus was just on becoming the best actor that I could be, because I did things when I was a kid, but I kind of thought I wasn't going to be able to be an actor, as I navigated my gender journey, and kind of tabled it. And then after I was doing my youth work, I'm telling the kids to follow their dreams and don't let anything get in the way. And it's like, well, I got to practice what I preach, so let me step back, let me fully commit to this thing that I know is important for me as like a storyteller. And so, a lot of the initial focus was just on coming to, a sense of honesty with myself, discovering what I was holding, what my blocks were, and then learning the business, and then paying the dues of learning how to be on set and learning how the process works, and just, taking any roles from background to featured work to whatever. And then I got to a point where I was like, okay, what kinds of stories do I want to tell? What kinds of story am I the only one who can tell, because of, the sort of experiences that I can bring to a character, to a story? And what am I interested in seeing? What did I wish that I had, an example of when I was coming up as a child, just absorbing all of the television and films. Like, I never seen anything like me. And then when I did start to see, in independent media, more trans representation, it was still mostly white. It was still very focused on the transition or coming out or being young. And it's like, at that point in my life, I was already in my 30s, and I'm looking at parenthood, and I didn't have any films to sort of guide me or give me an idea of what even being a trans parent could look like. So I was looking for something like that when Heather and Sarah approached me, because Heather she's a cis white woman, but her husband is trans, and they have 2 children. And so, she was working on something to navigate her story. And she said, we really wanted to work with you on this. And so very early on, they brought me in to sort of talk about the story they wanted to tell. And I brought my experiences to it, as a Black trans man, what my concerns would be and what my dreams and hopes would be and what my fears are and how we could explore that, through this short. And I thought they did a great job of sort of letting me bring my fears and my experiences as a Black trans man, to this particular story.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. I thought that story was also developed and it unfolded in a beautiful way. Was there things that, knowing that you were that you were going to be playing this role? I don't know what ethnicity and race Sarah and Heather are, but was there specificity that was brought to the role, being that you are a Black trans person?
Yes. I mean, they were pulling from their experience. They're both cis white women, but they're in queer relationships. And so they wanted to sort of navigate that, but they also wanted to give platform to underrepresented voices. So they knew in their mind they wanted it to be focused around a more intersectional story. They wanted it to be, somebody of color. And, and I knew Heather's husband, and she was like, I think I would love to see Brian in this and, what he can bring. So the door was open, out the gate when they approached me, and they told me kind of what the premise was, but they wanted to know, like, what could they highlight through the story that they don't know about as people from their background, their experience. So they let me bring that in, and they talked to other people. But I felt like it was, it was something that I felt like I could color with my experiences or my ideas, a little bit more than if I was just given a script and told to learn this and whatever. I was there like at like before they even had a first draft of the script, they kind of sat down and talked to me, and it really allowed us to sort of shape how we explored it and how we navigated the conversations that you saw in the film.
That's beautiful. I feel like a lot of people are having that sensitivity to the fact that if they're cis or if they're white, they won't know the stories, and that part of the storytelling is collaborative, and we need to sort of pull in all of. We need to ask our communities. They need to ask our communities how to shape and form and color the story. I want to segue over to you, Jade. It's just kind of interesting because I feel like I know everybody here in some capacity, in some sort of depth, and I'm just so happy to see these stories. But Jade, I didn't actually know that you were a parent until I seen this film, and then I saw that you brought your child up on stage afterwards as well, and so this actually is your story. This is your film. Can you talk to me about the things that you feel like are the most important takeaways for you, for other people to know about the journeys that you dip and dive and roller coaster through as a parent?
Yeah. I really love the kind of the way that the story arcs in just kind of navigating like parenthood and childhood, right? And especially for myself as a queer trans woman, you don't get a lot of stories of trans women as mothers, in our media. And so I felt that it was just really important for me to put that out as something really public. This is me, and this is something that I know is unique, and I know the power of storytelling because of how my journey has come into film, right? And kind of circling back to your first question was like, I started off as a poet, much like you, Dilo. I've done, different kinds of things. I never thought I would get into film, but I just always wanted to challenge myself as an artist, and I felt like my art expanded into more than just like poetry and writing, but I wanted to give a story in a physical video, film kind of way. And so this film and this opportunity just kind of came, out of nowhere, and someone approached me wanting to, document a little bit of my life, it being unique, and that I'm a trans woman of color and I'm a parent and transitioning, showing that story, but also that not being the focus of it, it's also just kind of like you're just kind of seeing it happen, because of time that you're like following us, but it's also through my daughter's eyes. And so bringing the stories of like trans parenthood I think is just really important to like where we're at today. And I think ultimately what comes out of it in the bigger picture is raising our children to understand the realities of the world that we're in, and not just the issues of gender, but the issues of race and the issues of white supremacy and anti-blackness. And I feel like if anything comes out of the story I'm telling, is that I'm taking the time to teach my child just the realities of the world in a way that she can understand and grow and become an ally as she grows into her full self.
Yeah, it's a beautiful unfolding of the story as well. And I saw what you were doing stylistically with this. And how did you think about creating the piece in order to shoot it in the way that you did?
I think it was really just organic. I think because again, it was like my first time getting into film at all. And my director has a good eye for that stuff too, and was able to let me give a lot of input onto the stories, into the way that it would be told, and setting the scenes and what we wanted to create and the aesthetics of it, the flowers. And but it was just me being me. I was like, how can I be me in my fullest sense, right? And as a trans person, as a trans woman coming into myself, there's always that idea to want to push ourselves along in the ways that like what feels so authentic to me, and to like lean really heavy into that, right? And that's once like everything comes off and you're like, no, I'm dedicated to like finding my true self. And there's a sense of like relentlessness that we do in our transitions, right? And it takes that kind of like bravery and that resilience. And so I wanted to show that and showcase that in film. It was like, let me just be me to the fullest of what that feels like, and let that come out in the film. And I hope that that's like kind of what happened.
Thank you for that, Jade. I messed up, everyone, and I didn't even share your bios with everybody because I was so eager, because I'm being selfish and I know y'all, and I didn't do that. So I actually want to do y'all the right thing and introduce everybody. So here we go. An award. We're starting off with Case Tenna, an award-winning filmmaker. Case was born in New York City. She's a transgender Latinx woman, the offspring of working-class parents from the Dominican Republic. She's fully fluent in Spanish, and she's the first known trans Latinx woman to join the Writers Guild of America. Jade, yes, snaps and all the love for that. Jade's work is a poetic expression rooted in the multiple identities she holds and how they intersect with her day-to-day fight for a collective liberation, while boldly creating art and cultural content in hopes of bringing queer and trans stories to the center of today's current social, political, and cultural landscapes. River Gallo, they, them, there, is a GLAAD award-winning Salvadoran American filmmaker, actor, writer, model, and intersex advocate with Interact. Their work explores the dynamics of personal and confessionary storytelling and media's healing abilities through re-envisioning minority narratives. They are a graduate of NYU's Tisch School of the Arts, Experimental Theater Wing, and the USC School of Cinematic Arts MFA program. And Brian Michael Smith is an American actor known for his recurring role in OWN's Queen Sugar, as well as appearances on NBC's Chicago PD, HBO Girls, and Showtime's thriller Homeland. In June 2019, he was named to the L Word Generation Q cast. And in January 2020, he was featured as part of the debut ensemble of 911 Lone Star. Okay, now that I feel like I did that right, yes, all the kudos. I ended up talking to Jade about the style in which the film was shot, and I'm moving over to you, River and Seven, about Pony Boy, which for me was the first intersex film that I had seen. And what was so important for me too is to understand the work of both of you, actually, through our online interaction, social media, and to know that, and to also keep it at the forefront of my mind. I think that sometimes when we talk about trans and non-binary and queer, we forget the I. And you have been working relentlessly to make sure that that I is elevated. And right now, I feel like it's through both of you that I have been able to do better ally work. And I appreciate and I'm grateful for the work that you continuously do. We were going back to the style of this film. There was also such a beautiful, I don't know what to call it, but it was like a treat for the eyes. Like it was a really beautiful, poetically created and shot film. I wanted to talk with you first about the style in which you created this film and how I am curious about how the story did come about for you to the storyline. So if you wanted to share both of that, and also Seven, I don't think that I introduced you properly as well. Seven is the executive producer of Pony Boy.
Thank you so much. That lovely intro. So how did the story come about? Well, it was something that actually I had been living with for a while. There was a play that I did my senior year at NYU that was my thesis play that had to do with a queer sex worker in New Jersey, and that was in 2012, I believe, or 2013 rather. And I guess I just like couldn't shake the story off of me. And when it came time to do my thesis for USC, I decided to. Well, when I was at USC, I had a very difficult time in learning to do the films that I wanted to do. I thought that I had to. At the very beginning, I didn't want my characters in the scripts that I was writing weren't queer, because I was like, I don't want anyone to, think that that's all I did. And I wanted to please my teachers, which are mostly white and cis and men. So I think generally the environment in film school, in the beginning, I was just trying to assimilate essentially and please people. And then, if I'm to be honest, the work suffered, and my films weren't that good. And then I realized I was like, it was because I was hiding myself in it and not wanting to really, be myself in the writing, in the directing, in the, storytelling. And then I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to go back to my roots and literally be in the movie and then just go full river. And then it was through that I realized that I wanted to put my narrative of being intersex in it, which at the time I didn't know the word intersex. I knew that I had a condition where I was born without testes, and was operated on when I was around 16 to put prosthetic testes as an unconsented cosmetic plastic surgery to make me look like a normal man. And so I was reading about it online, and then I realized that the condition that I was born with, called anorexia, was actually part of the intersex umbrella. And for those watching who don't know what intersex is an umbrella term for people born with a variety of different conditions that manifest in many different ways in one's body, where your body isn't what you would typically find in a man or woman. So it's literally, we have bodies beyond the gender binary. And I just had no idea that was a word, or that there was activism around it, or that there was even, it was a human rights issue having to do with body autonomy. And so when I learned that, and with the support of my co-director, Sade Clacken-Joseph, who's not here, we met at USC, and through Seven, who encouraged me to put that also into the narrative, we realized that we had to do our due diligence to the community to put that narrative in there, because it was actually the reason why, D-Lo, you haven't seen a movie about intersex people, is that before Pony Boy, there was no intersex narrative film by an intersex person. So yeah, I mean, I went out, the story really started as a theater piece that then turned into like a self-actualizing piece of my own identity as an artist, and also to get a grade for grad school and graduate. And then it turned into, a film that was, you know, historic for the intersex community, for the queer community, just for cinema in general, I guess. So that was, yeah, that was what led to that. But stylistically, in terms of the actual movie, I've always been interested in just kind of the slippery nature of just like dreams and reality, and how that, you know, how one looks at the world. You know, we think that dreams only happen at night, but really our perspectives are always kind of shifting around, and are very fluid. They're not just what we're seeing. Each person, I really do believe, sees the world in a very specific kind of way. And in a way, it was kind of like what I was trying to accomplish in Pony Boy was that kind of, you know, fluidity in perspective, which I guess is kind of a queer sensibility, like, you know, fantasy and dreams, because of that, you know, general kind of expansiveness of seeing something beyond what you actually see it to be in this dimension. So that's something that I was always conscious of when I was making Pony Boy, is how can something feel more closer to the way we actually see, or we actually interact with our fantasies on a daily basis.
Thank you for that. I'm sure that there'll be more questions for both of you too. I want to just honor the time and move on to our next folks. But I am personally curious about how you both found each other and how you started working together. So hopefully that might be a question that you can answer in a little bit. I wanted to, last but definitely not least of the questions, I want to bring on my sister, Case. Case, I have seen so much of your work throughout the years. I think that it initiated with me kind of almost stalking you in a very queer friendly way. But I was so moved by, and River, you spoke about this, the cinematic experience, about being, I think that there is a lens that we see things through, and that if we're able to translate that as cinematographers, as directors, as whatnot, then it's almost like a mark for our people to sort of go, yeah, like there was something else happening in this film that I knew was like queer, but I can't explain it, you know? And so, Case, I've seen a lot of your black and whites. I've seen other films that you've sent me over the years. And with this film, I also saw it at Outfest. And I mean, it's kind of, we see a journey of a young person. I wanted to know like how you came up with this concept, and what it was like for you to shoot this, how it was different than other things that you did, and just kind of hear your explanations for everything.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on this, and thank you for this event. I've been making films. I've been writing for a long time, and I've through the years I've learned, you know, by making a lot of mistakes. And one thing that I've done a lot of my work is I love to employ little dialogue. That's not every film. The next film that I'm preparing for my next film, and that film is going to be a little more dialogue heavy. But I have a number of films that I have made with no dialogue, and I feel like if you can tell a story, I mean, writing a screenplay is difficult, right? And then imagine pulling away the dialogue and telling a story that has a clear beginning, middle, and end. That's one hell of a challenge, you know. How do you communicate a story with no words or very little words, and not have anyone in the audience feel like, well, I got confused, and I feel like I've gotten really good at that, and it's only because I've done it a number of times. Um, and you've seen a lot of those films that I sent you. I made films with no people, where the Bronx in black and white, where I documented the Bronx in black and white, and New York in slow motion. I got, you know, and so the city is the character. Um, And so I wanted to employ that in this film. And I just grabbed, it's not, this film is not autobiographical. It is and it isn't, because it came from a lot of events in my life. There are so many things there that happened to me personally. And what I did, the writer in me, I just grabbed a lot of moments from my life that happened maybe when I was 8 years old, 12, 16, and I put a thread through it and made it appear as if it all happened over the course of one day. Now, having said that, everything is based on reality. So, for instance, in Full Beat, um, my dad had a pickup truck, so I used that. My dad is highly respected in baseball circles. He wanted me to be a baseball player, so I used that. That's why they had the glove and the baseball. Um, Going through someone's suitcase to pull out makeup at a time when I couldn't do it. And I did that shit when I was little. Um, and then just so many things, that I grabbed from my life. Being sent to a place, like the character sent to spend the day with the dad, and she doesn't want to be there. I know what it's like to be sent somewhere, and I did not want to be there. And I wanted to leave, but I couldn't because I was a child and I had to do what I was told. So again, like I just grabbed from my life a bunch of different events and I put them in a sequence and made it look like it all happened in one day. But the important thing is that everything is based on something real. Everything is founded in reality, and I think that's that's where people can connect to the story, because everyone has, you don't have, the thing about, I think that the thing that stands out about my films, and everyone here, um, my films are not about, my films are human films. I don't make films about transgender people. I make films about human beings, who happen to be transgender. And that's what I tell people. When people tell me, like, sometimes I tell people I'm a transgender writer because it's convenient for that term to slip out of my mouth, to come out of my mouth. But I'm not a transgender writer, man. I'm a writer, period. Because when you say that I'm a transgender writer, what you're saying is that I'm only good enough to write those trans stories. And the fact of the matter is that us marginalized people, because we've been forced to, by the majority, let's just say, um, we're actually better at telling cisgender story than cisgender people are telling our stories. Yet cisgender people somehow always tell our stories, and we're never allowed to tell their stories because we only get called upon when it's a transgender story. Um, and when they don't have anything transgender going on, well, okay, so we wanted to bring you into this writer's room, but we don't have a transgender character. And I'm like, you know, I'm a writer. Like I can write you better than you can write me. You know. So yeah, that's
You could read them too better than they could.
what happened.
You could read them too better than they could read you.
Of course, So yeah, I mean, actually, like, not for any bad reason. It just so happens again that most of the times I'm in a circle or I'm in a space where I'm the only trans person in that, like, I work out. I do yoga and I do Pilates. And that's one thing, like, Dante invited us to speak about anything. And, with COVID, I haven't worked out in 3 months and I'm mentally sick. That's affecting me. But like where I go do Pilates and yoga, like I look around, I don't see another transgender person there. Like there's so many places where I go to. When I go to the Writers Guild, I look around and like I'm the only transgender person in that space, so for them to think that they can manage our stories better than we can manage theirs, it's just preposterous, ridiculous, and just absurd.
Absolutely. I feel that sometimes because we are on the margins and we have a lens that is nuanced, and a lot of the atrocities that are placed on our bodies are coming from the cis community. And so but then we have to spend a lot of our time deconstructing their shit in order to understand it, in order to like figure it out, in order to survive. And so ultimately, yes, that does make us better writers than they would be, right? So anyway, so I'm just co-signing on that one.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we're at the halfway mark, and right now is when we were supposed to be taking questions from the audience, but I don't really see any questions coming in from, sorry, Dante, tell me.
You're muted.
You're muted, Dante. Sorry, Dante, for some reason, I think you muted yourself again. There we go.
No questions so far. I think people are just listening to the conversation, so we can go on.
No problems, yes. So I wanted to, so first of all, I always kind of enjoy doing this because I'm like, oh, I wonder if everybody has questions for one another. And sometimes we don't get to, as peers and as people who are sharing the same spaces with our projects or our films or in showcases or whatnot, we don't actually get the chance to do that and have a deeper conversation. And I was like, okay, well, if nobody's coming in on the live comments, then maybe we can have a time to sort of ask each other questions or reflect back, like anything that resonated for you. Oh, Dante, yes.
Actually, we have one question, but let me put my glasses on, which is something I'm sure everybody will chime in. Do you have stories? Do you have stories to tell about the pandemic and how it has probably affected your lives in different ways, as well as your craft?
Yes, thank you. Again, the question is, will you have stories to tell about the pandemic that has probably affected your lives in different ways, as well as your craft? I know for myself as an artist, it kind of seems futile to be thinking about creating in a time where we don't know what the world is going to look like, because we are in a pandemic and an uprising, and we are like people with hearts who come from communities that are oppressed, or our beloveds are Black and trans, and we believe that we should be fighting for something that looks different than the way that things have been going. It does feel like, okay, so what do we write about right now? I'm sharing in a fellowship with River, and this was a conversation that we talked about recently, which is like, what do we write about? What are people going to be thinking about? And so I just, not that I have the answers, I think that this is still a question that's kind of marbling around in my head, but I wanted to hear from you all about where you are at creatively, if you are at a place, because like sometimes I feel like I'm writing more poetry these days than I'm actually thinking about script ideas or acting things or whatnot. So that's a free for all. If anybody can just sort of put up their finger, and then we'll go with you. Go ahead, Jade.
Yeah, it's been an interesting process trying to figure out what that looks like during this time, and especially for us as artists to the core of who we are. It's like, for me, there's not really been any like stories or like creative things that we would think as, like a film, or there's no projects that have come up. I was on a track thinking I wanted to be a TV writer, and then COVID hit, and then the uprising, and what I found myself wanting to do was, how can I use my gifts and what I do for the current things that we're experiencing in our world today? And so I shifted into a food business, and right now it's like I'm feeding Black folks for free in LA, vegan food, and just kind of hoping, that it's like a momentary relief, or it's like a moment of healing for folks. And that's just kind of what's come out for me. And I think of that as an artistic endeavor, right? At first it felt like, oh, food is art, right? And culinary art. And the way that I connect my story of food to food tells a story also, right? And what I'm trying to do with what we're creating and how we're feeding the revolution, we like to think of that this is a story that we're telling. It's just in a different way. It's in a way that's, able to nourish our bodies and nourish the fight that we're in right now. And it's been freeing to just be like, I don't feel like I always have to create like creative projects as an artist. I can also create food that is nourishing to our bodies. So that's where I've shifted with that during this pandemic and this uprising.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I think that I think that we'll find like, I don't know, I just feel like artists are resilient people because we have to create something out of literally nothing. And, you know, I feel like no matter what we do, there's going to be an artistic sensibility to what we're doing. Does anybody else want to take that question? Go ahead, Case.
Nah, you know, I don't want to write about COVID, man. I'm living it. You know, like shit, I just want to forget about it. I want it to be over so I can, you know, I've been working on a film for like many years, and that is also like another piece that is based on stuff that I've been through in my life. And shoots in New York, but I decided because I'm having problems raising the money, which is no surprise. As you know, independent filmmakers and then people of color. You know, independent filmmaking is tough for everyone, and then you add the transgender and non-binary and intersex and color, and it just becomes 20 times harder. So I decided to write something, um, a feature that was more manageable budget wise, something that I told myself, I'm going to write something that I can just shoot with any camera. Like, you know, the important thing right now is how strong the script is and the acting. And those are the things that are always going to carry a story, especially if it's an independent film. And so I wrote that story and I was like getting ready to shoot it. And then COVID-19 happened. And then, you know, there was a little bit of hope. I think it was a week ago or 2 weeks ago because things were like opening up. And then this stupid ass white cop in Minnesota had to go and kill George Floyd. And then all of this is happening. And then we have Monday, out of all places, in Minnesota, where this thing happened. I'm sure all of us here have seen the video of Iana Dior, the transgender girl who got, I mean, like, you know, that really affected me. When I saw that video, I'm usually, do you guys remember Omar Gaddafi, um, um, the dictator? So when he got killed, there was a very vicious video of a mob beating where he got killed, and like I was able to watch that video and have like no problem watching it, and I couldn't watch the Yana Dior video. I just couldn't, and I watch a lot of vicious stuff. Like I've trained myself to like stomach through it, no problem. But I couldn't watch that one, and so I think I watched it on Monday or Tuesday, and I spent the next day like crying. I cried pretty much all day over this girl that I've never met in my life. Um, and yeah, like I just want to forget about this shit, man. I don't want to write about it. Honestly, that's my take. If somebody else is like, oh yeah, and you know what, your best experience come from things that you've lived, like your best writing, in my estimation. So maybe a year from now, when I'm removed from it, or 2 years from now, I can come back, revisit this, and write. But right now, man, nah, man, I don't want to write about this shit. I don't even want to see films about this. I don't want to watch documentaries about this. Is the last thing I want to do is spend any more time with COVID.
I
That's
hear
not,
that.
that's not to say that everybody else has to agree. Like you can feel completely opposite, and there's no right or wrong. You know, it's just two different, right?
Absolutely, I totally understand that, and I too, I'm like in a mixed bag of things because there's part of me that, part of me not wanting to see things, and part of me seeing things that is like so devastating, is also like, you know, the way that it manifests in my body is that I I will do everything that I can to almost like compartmentalize because I can't do the day otherwise. And so we all have our levels of what we can consume, and every time it has to do with people of color and trans people and folks within our community, it's like I understand when some of us are just like, no man, like I can't do the day, you know. So I'm feeling that. Seven, you had raised your hand. Go ahead and take the floor.
Hi, thank you. Yes, I'm not particularly keen on making art around COVID. I absolutely agree. We're living it. It's a nightmare. I'll be really glad when we can move beyond it. My perspective as an intersex producer working with River is wanting to find River's now written the feature script for Pony Boy, and we need to raise 1.5 million to get that film made. So I'm looking at how we can A, raise that money as quickly as possible, and B, how we can make the film that River's written within the guidelines that are currently emerging about keeping cast and crew and everybody safe. From my perspective, insect babies and children are still being born every day, every week, and they're still being harmed by doctors. That's going on regardless of COVID-19. We, as you said already, have no insects narratives out there. So this story is really, really important to insects people around the world who are as common as red hair and green eyes. And I want to get that story made as quickly as possible, as safely as possible. But we need to protect insect babies and children. And so that's my focus and priority right now, is helping River do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I feel similarly too about just COVID in general, or writing anything related to it. Though I will say that in this recent week, in this uprising that's happened, going to all these protests and stuff, I feel very, sad and angry and distraught and disillusioned. But on the opposite side, I also feel very invigorated right now. I feel inspired. I feel like strong, and I feel like our community feels that strength in a way that I had never felt before. We literally just went to a protest here in LA in Pan Pacific Park, and just hearing people, kind of like what you were saying, Case, about the trans woman in Minnesota. A lot of the speakers were talking about Breonna Taylor, and I've personally felt so hurt by Breonna for some reason. I don't know why, but it's like that feeling that you're talking about, that like you could not know somebody, but somehow you know them, and you could feel this deep hurt and this deep injustice. And I guess that's similar to like when you make a movie, like you don't know, or when you watch a movie, you don't know the person, you don't know, these are made up characters, even though parts of them could be real and stuff, but you can feel so much empathy and so moved by something. So I guess in general, I'm just feeling like there's that what we're creating right now, which I guess what we're writing right now, maybe we'll see on screen or on TV in the next year or next 2 years. I feel like right now is really the start of a societal uprising, and which will lead to a cultural uprising and a new renaissance of just amazing work that really just, the bullshit's going to get cut aside, and the work is just going to get much more raw and much more real, and yeah, so I've been feeling on one hand just kind of disoriented, but on the other hand just feeling intuitively that some really amazing art is going to come from this, and not an art in the way that like it's going to be for capitalistic or just being for it's going to be art that is going to be geared towards uplifting people, I think, and specifically uplifting people of color, trans people, non-binary people, intersex people, just people that haven't seen themselves before. And I really do feel like that's on the horizon.
I'm with you on that, River. And Seven, thank you so much for sharing. Brian, can you talk to us about what you're thinking? I know that you're primarily an actor, but I also know that I've been in conversation with you, and you also write, and you're an artist of many mediums. So I just wanted to know, what is it like for you right now, and where is all your efforts or energies going to, or how do you feel about the industry in general? Any thoughts?
Well, I mean, for me, in terms of like what I want to talk about, or like what COVID has sort of brought, into my world, is just this slowing down and this like pulling apart of like distraction and concentration on like what is really important, and then just who I am at this moment, where it's like, I felt like I had a sense of who I was, kind of moving full steam ahead. A lot of things that I had worked towards has started to manifest, and a lot of the change that I wanted to create in the world, I felt like, oh, it's starting to happen. So that was like a great point to sort of go on a hiatus, and it was supposed to be a hiatus anyway, because the show that I was working on took a break, but COVID just slowed everything down and just really put me in this place of reflection. and I don't know what to make of it all just yet. So I couldn't create something about this time because I haven't processed it. There's so much to process. There's so much of a breaking down, and it's not like a breaking down in a bad way. It's like how things, in order to be sort of rebirth, they have to sort of die or like break down. So like I feel like a form of our society died, in the weeks of this lockdown, and then with this uprising, it's like just further just stamping it out, this version of America that is not working for anybody. That's just way too consumeristic. That's just like on a train with no driver. I feel like that's what the country has been doing, and like this is like stop the train, and now we're deciding who's going to drive it, and are we going to drive this together, or is it going to be us fighting over the driver's seat? So I just kind of feel like that's where we're at this moment. And I feel like I would like to have more direction over whatever story I'm going to tell, but I just need to get an understanding of what that story is going to be. And so that for me is taking me out of a place of creation and more of a place of involvement. So I'm trying to get more involved because during this time I realized I don't know that much about some of the initiatives and work that's already been done and the things that I feel like are important. I want to be more directly involved with those things. So being more directly involved with organizations that have been pushing for certain types of social change, with organizations that have been trying to amplify the voices of people who haven't necessarily been heard. I do it through my art, but I would also like to do it more direct. And so I want to find ways to do that. So I'm kind of in a place of exploration. And now that it seems like we're moving out of the lockdown phase, I would like to move more into a gathering space on how I can be more directly involved before I start trying to tell stories.
Absolutely, that is gorgeous. I'm also in the similar boat in that I've been I've been an organizer, I think, my whole life, but now, especially in this, I feel like that's what I've just been putting all my efforts to, is just organizing with my own community about anti-Black racism, just casteism, classism, all the things that are so prevalent in our communities that we don't take the time to talk about. And people are finally in my community trying to even have these conversations. And I think that we all, it's so funny because especially on this call, it's not like any of us are removed from our communities. We have been making work in our communities. We have been representing our communities. We have been like, it's almost like there's that added weight, and it's not a weight that feels heavy per se, but it's almost like a duty, a responsibility to create and to be a part of art that really is changing the conversation for our communities. Is there any last sort of thoughts around that you wanted to share? I was just given this note that we are trying to support. We're asking folks that for this show, and Dante, if you want to talk a little bit more about this, we are asking folks to donate to the Black and Pink organization. Dante, do you want to just step on and talk a little bit about this organization before we keep moving? I know we only have 7 minutes. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. So no, I have been getting a lot of emails, and we wanted to support, Black organizations, but also that we will support, queer people of color. I mean, queer trans folks. So I found this link, and somebody sent it to me, and so I looked it up. It looked really great. I mean, they're getting funding to go to help people that are incarcerated. I mean, due to the protests, bail them out. And obviously, with the focus is centralized on queer folks, Black queer folks in the South or wherever this is happening. So it's just one. I mean, I'm sure all of us have places that and organizations that we want to support right now. But I wanted to center on an organization that is actually supporting Black and queer folks at the same time, not separately. Yeah. So it's just one idea anyway. Yeah. But I think we should be wrapping it up because Stephanie's gonna come in and we want to read her poetry. And I know some of people are gonna be leaving us. But I just want to say from the bottom of my heart that I've learned a lot. I will continue to support your work. I'm a big fan of all of you. You know that already. I even watched, 411 because of Brian.
911. 911 Lone
And
Star.
I Lone Star, yeah, and I was like, wow, you're really great. And Jade, I'm so sorry I didn't get to see Eliza. I adore her. And how is she doing? How old is she now?
She's 8. She just turned 8 last week. So
Oh, wow.
Happy birthday.
And River and Seven, I know you have a feature that you're gonna turn Pony into. Please let us know how we can support you personally and through the alliance. I know you have big people behind you, and I'm gonna mention just to drop some names: Emma Thompson and Stephen Fry. So I'm sure if they decide to support you, it's because this film is gonna become a reality. In case, my friend, I'm a phone call away. You can call me anytime, and I'm here for you. So let's just give a last wrap up mention that you guys want to say something, and then we'll invite Stephanie into the conversation.
I actually just wanted to say, so that we do this correctly, that Black and Pink is an organization under resist.org, and they're a grantee. So if people want to look up resist.org and the grantee, and the organization seems really beautiful, what they stand for, their mission statement. And Dante, you were saying that we just wanted to close out. If anybody,
Closing remarks on
anything. Yeah, and I think Stephanie is supposed to do some poems before the or around this 4 o'clock time. So I wanted to stay on track. But if anybody wanted to say anything last minute, we've all really appreciated your time here. Thank you so much for being here with us. But if anybody wants last comments before we get into Stephanie's. Okay, thank you so very much again. I appreciate y'all from the bottom of my heart. And Dante, thank you for bringing us all together. I'm going to introduce Stephanie Burt, who's probably a poem too, who is a poet who's going to be reading some work for us right now.
And actually, I'll do a little bit. I'll just say a little bit more about Stephanie. Stephanie Burt is the author of 3 poetry collections: Belmont, Parallel Play, and Popular Music, and several other collections of critical works. Her essay collection, Close Calls with Nonsense, was a finalist for the National Book Critics Circle Award. Her other works include Don't Read Poetry and The Chosen Book for Big Read, Advice from the Lights. Stephanie, hello.
Hi, I'm really happy to be here. And
happy to have you.
What? Oh yeah.
We're happy to have you, and
it's an honor. And I was able to get sort of the end of the preceding conversation, and
yeah, it was amazing.
Thank you for bringing me in. And I hope my presence here sort of helps get attention to the people whose audiovisual works have been the center of this conversation so far. And it's weird. My understanding is I'm reading a poem and then having a conversation.
Well, we're almost 4 o'clock, so I'm okay. The poem, and I'll just do the outro. Meaning that I will say thank you to some people and talk about the support from the DCA, basically.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So this is a poem from the Big Read book, for which I'm grateful for the attention, and it's a poem that comes partly about me starting to think as I was finishing writing this book about something that I hope white people like me are thinking about, which is how to talk to other white people about white supremacy and about becoming aware of white privilege and racism, especially anti-Black racism in America, so that people of color can do something else with their time and their energy. And I don't know if I'm, okay at doing that, but that's something I'm trying to do as a writer now and then. And I hope it's a thread at the very end of this book. This is one of the poems that, if it works, and I don't know if it works, incorporates that wish or hope. And it's called Advice for Holding Together. Advice for Holding Together. Here is a shoelace tougher than snakeskin, coarser than coat's wool. Under each spiral, a union of polymers structurally analogous to the transatlantic cable, to the supposed progress of civilization, to anything else you can worry between thumb and ring, held together so that it can work at all by the aglet at each end. What you can't hear may be deafening somebody else. What's almost too small to see may just be too far away. Be your own means of magnification or microscopy. Become your own indignity.
Thank you. That's great, Stephanie. Let me see if there are any questions, because it's live, so we're
here for that.
Check out the live comments. For a minute. Mostly thank you.
The live comment stream. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Let me see.
I see that Marcel.
I'm like you.
What?
I'm like you. Would you like to read another one to send us off?
Yeah, if that's what you think is appropriate. I'm so happy to be able to hop in on this event. So this is one of the poems where talking objects, non-human speakers, show up in this book and think about their past and their present and how their future could be different. And I don't know if you've seen this with grade schools that any of you have been connected to, but a lot of schools bury something in the ground to be dug up later. And the object speaks the poem. 5th grade time capsule. Having given the sun and school their expected ceremonious farewells, I can start to envision my future, my big reveal. By that point, everything I have kept between my boards in my polyurethane seal will have acquired fresh appeal as evidence from another age. A glitter pen sketch of a tubular rocket ship, an origami cricket notebook page, a jadeite earring, the Boston Globe, and a scallop neck t-shirt, graced with an entourage of names in Sharpie, in graffiti script. I know I am too young to date. My answer to everything is, it's too early to say. Though I am ready to lead a long delayed or even a buried life, I dream of the day when I am decoded and vaunted, of a floral float in a parade, if not a chauffeured evening on the town. The people who pick me up can never be the same as the ones who put me down. You're muted, Dante. You're muted.
I'm double checking to see if one of the filmmakers is gonna join us to ask your questions. She said thunderous applause.
Aww. Oh, thank you.
Well, hold on, I think video, and this is Case. So meet Stephanie.
Hi. Hi.
Casey, you had a question. Did you have any question for Stephanie?
Got to unmute yourself there. Unmute yourself, Case.
Case, did you have any questions for Stephanie?
You are not audible. Unmute.
Yeah, wait.
There you go. Okay.
Hi. No, I don't have any questions. I was just giving you a.
Aw. Thank you. One tries. One try.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm here to listen. I'm here to
I
listen.
want to be part of this. Yeah.
Okay, so
thank you to you.
You have a question?
I do not have a question. I am putting everybody's handle in the private chat. So if one of y'all can move that over to the live comments so that we close out with people knowing how they can hear more about all the artists. Stephanie, also, if you can put in your handle as well so that people know how to get.
Okay.
There we go. Perfect. So we'll just put that over to the live comments, and hopefully everyone can be in touch with us. Stephanie, I also applaud you for your good work in
Thank you. And you probably want to say, when you go to the live comments, you want to say if those are Twitter handles or Instagram handles or both.
Right. I think the majority of the ones that I put in there, actually all of them are Instagram handles.
Oh, wow.
But also, I'm not on Twitter as much, so that's where I was going from.
Okay. Is this a film specific thing, or should I be moving to Instagram now?
You know what? I always say, do the social media that you feel the most comfortable doing, and then do that one well if you feel like it.
Okay. Good advice.
Yeah.
Good advice.
So I just wanted to make sure that the audience is still watching us to know that the films and this recorded conversation are gonna be playing on Seed&Spark until midnight tomorrow night. The other thing I want to say is thank you to Seed&Spark, especially Julie and Clay and Danny, for teaching me how to navigate this online programming. I wouldn't have done it without them. Also, of course, I want to thank Case and Dilo. And I also want to say to the DCA, who is the one who approached me about doing this programming, that this program is presented as part of the Big Read, an initiative of the National Endowment for the Arts in partnership with Arts Midwest. It is made possible by the City of LA Department of Cultural Affairs. And I want to thank especially DCA Elizabeth Morin, like I said before, for salvaging this program, for being persevering, that she thought hearing our voices today was an important thing to do. I truly believe that now that we go out demonstrating, we keep social distance, we wear our masks, but we keep demonstrating. I totally believe in the power of doing these demos, of doing these marches, and social change will happen. And we, artists, filmmakers, creators, will be in the forefront, telling our own stories and changing people's hearts and minds, and possibly policies and structural constructs. So that's the last word from me. Thank you so much. Au revoir.
And thank you to Julie as well, Julie Haberstick, for being our tech person, kind of managing the show. Thank you so much, Julie.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you, Stephanie, for instigating this whole programming. I know we're supposed to meet you in March, and of course, because of COVID-19, we couldn't.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for your art, and keep writing. And hopefully someday we'll meet you on the East Coast.
I like LA. Maybe I'll be in LA next year. We'll see. I hope so.
So you don't have to reach us now.
I just wanted to say I was thanking the audience, and I saw their comments. I was looking for a way to answer them personally, especially those who had so many beautiful things to say. So we're not ignoring you. We're seeing your comments. I just couldn't figure out a way of answering. So this is my way of answering, just to say thank you for everything, for everyone who watched and everyone who commented. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. And I'm sure that's a sentiment that all of us here share, all the filmmakers, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. We'll see you soon.
Thank you. Bye.